Good morning and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. This is Unaya Kusingan together with Juhaima Haji Alawi. We are tasked to report lesson 2 of module 1. I am going to discuss about the education and development. Here are the list of learning outcomes that you are expected to attain at the end of my discussion. I am going to discuss about the education and development of Philippine education. Identify the events, curriculum, and purpose of education in each piece. Assess how education is established by colonizer. Analyze the concept and principle of Philippine education and establish connection towards education goals from the past to the present. Let us start the discussion with a question. Why is there a need to study the education as well as the development of the Philippine education? According to Swepp, in 1969, noted that education is everything, which comprises the way of life of a society or a group of people is learned. What is the sociology of education? It is the study of how public institutions and individual experiences affect education and its outcomes. It is philosophical as well as sociological concept, uniting ideologies, curricula, and pedagogical techniques of the inculcation and management of knowledge and social reproduction of personalities and cultures. Let us go to the main discussion, the education and development of the Philippine education. First, let us get to know the pre-Spanish era. In the pre-Spanish era, the Filipinos possessed a culture of their own. They had contacts with foreign people from Arabia, India, China, Indochina, and Borneo. The inhabitants were civilized people possessing their system of writing, laws, and moral standard in a well-organized system of government. In the Code of Kalantiao and Maragta's belief in the Bathala, solidarity of family, the modesty of women, the children's obedience and respect for the elders and value of women. In the Spanish era, their political system unit of government are number 1, Datu. The Datu is the title for chefs, sovereign princess and monarch in Visayas and Mindanao regions. Lakan in Luzon, Apo of Central and Northern Luzon. Sultan and Raha, the natives royalty in Mindanao and Sulu. The second is Babaylan, a Visayan term identifying an indigenous people, religious leader who functions as a healer, a shaman, and a community miracle worker. The Babaylan can be a male or female. There is also this Umaluhukan. The Umahulukan refers to the town criers of ancient Philippine barangay. They are responsible for going around and making people aware of the laws enacted by Dato or Chieftain. In the pre-Spanish era curriculum, the education was informal, unstructured, and devoid of methods. The focus was on vocational training and less academics, or the 3 R's. Informal education was conducted through observation, example, and imitation, and there was no direct teaching methods. Also, they are using Alibata. Alibata is an ancient system of writing that was used before. They modified the original ancient Baybayin script. The aim of education in the pre-Spanish era are survival, conformity, education, or acculturation. The method the methods they are using are show and tell observation, trial and error, and imitation. Educational types are informal, practical, and theoretical. Next is the Spanish era. In the Spanish era, the Spaniards were successful in making natives illiterate and uneducated. They triumphed using religion to make people submissive and unquestioning. Also, the Spanish policy offered no opportunity for the Indians to improve their lot in colonial mentality. In the 1762 to 1896, there was a period of awakening. Global changes like the opening of Suez Canal, the French Revolution, opening of Philippines to world trade and commerce provided illustrados to send their children to school abroad. Learning became a badge of privilege, and the Spain initiated educational reform by passing laws on education. The Philippine Revolution against Spain led to the discovery of Katipunan in 1896, which resulted the surrender of the last Spanish governor, General Diego de los Rios, to the Ilonggo revolutionaries headed by General Martin Delgado on December 25, 1898 in Plaza Alfonso XII. One of the laws passed in the Education Decree of 1863. In the Education Decree of 1863, the access to education by Filipinos was later liberalized through enactment of the Educational Decree of 1863, provided for the establishment of at least one primary school for the boys and girls in each town under the responsibility of the municipal government. Also, the establishment of a normal school for male teachers under the supervision of the Jesuits. During this time, the Spanish schools started accepting Filipino students. It was during this time the intellectuals Filipinos emerged. Just like any other laws, it always has issues. Some of the Education Act of 1863 issues are: first, there were not enough schools built. The teachers tend to use corporal punishment. The friars exercise control over the school and their teachers. Also, a widespread of secular education and the poor facilities and writing materials, and the children kept school to help with their family for a living. In the presidential decree, in the Spanish era, the education system curriculum are formal and organized. religion-oriented education, the Spanish missionary as tutors. They are exercise Christian doctrine, prayers, and sacred song. The 3 R's were only given to brighter pupils. In the Spanish era, the schools were parochial or convent schools. The main reading materials were the Cartilla and Catecismo. The school were upgraded and the curriculum organization were separately subject organization. Education system, it is consists of 3 grade levels: entrada, ascenso, termino. In the Spanish era, in term in terms of schools built, the schools for boys and girls were separated. The first established school were for the boys. The Augustinians built the first school in the Philippines situated in Cebu in 1565. The college at the time was equivalent to a university. Also, the students graduated with the degree and Bachelor of Arts. The first college school for the boys was Colegio de San Ignacio, established by the Jesuits in Manila in 1589. Colegio de Santa Potenciana in 1589 is the first college for girls in Manila. It was destroyed by the earthquake in 1645. Colegio de Nuestra Señora del Santissimo Rosario in 1611 is a private Roman Catholic run by order of preachers in Manila. UST is also the largest university in the city of Manila. Colegio de San Ildefonso, established by the Father Pedro Quirino and Antonio Pereira of the Society of Jesus in Cebu City. There are several claims that it is now the University of San Carlos. Colegio de San Juan de Letran, the college was founded in 1920. Colegio de San Juan de Letran has the distinction of being the oldest college in the Philippines and the oldest secondary institution in Asia. Escuela Pia de Manila, established in late 1859 by the Society of Jesus. It is the oldest Jesuit educational institution and third oldest university in the Philippines. In their education system, they teach catechism to natives, make the Spanish language compulsory, and has inadequate education. They are suppressed, limited, and controlled. In the era, education is a privilege, not a right education for the elite, and it's controlled by the friars. Some Some of the subjects taught are Christian doctrine, values, history, mathematics, agriculture, etiquette, singing, words, geography, and Spanish history. In the Spanish era, their aims of education are promote Christianity, promotion of Spanish language, imposition of Spanish, and culture. The methods are dictation, memorization, cenaculo, and theater presentation. The types of education are formal education, religious, catechism, and vocational course. Next is the First Republic in 1899 to 1901. The First Republic, it is also known as the Malolos Republic, a short live revolutionary government in the Philippines written by Felipe Calderon, Roca, and Felipe Buencamino as an alternative to a pair of proposals to the Malolos Congress by Apolinario Mabini and Pedro Paterno. It was formally established with the proclamation of the Malolos Constitution on January 23, 1899 in Malolos, Bulacan. In the Malolos Constitution, Article 14, Education, Science and Technology, Art, Culture, and Sport. In Section 1, the state shall promote the right of all citizens to quality education at all levels. In Section 2, complete, adequate, and integrated system of education, free education in elementary and high school level, scholarship grants, student loans, subsidized, non-formal, informal, indigenous learning system, self-learning, and independent out-of-school study programs. In Section 3, Constitution as a part of the curricula, patriotism, nationalism for the country, religion as a subject is allowed to public elementary and high schools. In Section 4, the control and administration of education institutions shall be vested in citizens of the Philippines, including those established by the religious group. And in Section 5, the state shall enhance the right teachers to professional advancement. Non-teaching and non-academic personnel shall enjoy the protection of the state. The state shall also assign the highest budgetary priority to education and ensure that teaching will attract and retain its rightful share. Some of the highlights of the First Republic are curricular reforms, secularization of education, attention to natural science, and improvement of higher centers of learning, and lack of pedagogical skills and also irrelevant course in curriculum. In the First Republic curriculum, subjects taught are science, math, history, philosophy, law, language, PE or physical education, religion, music, and social sciences. The aim of each is love of country and of God. So, what about the American period? In the American period, education was used by the Americans as one of the most effective means of pacifying the restless natives. Schools were established all over the archipelago. The natives were taught how to read and write, and they learned American geography, history, lives of American heroes, sang Star Spangled Banner, and learned the English language. This is a higher literacy rate among people contribute to the improvement of their standard of living, improvement in public health and employment opportunities. Also during this time, The education was for social mobility and democratic ideals. The American period curriculum, it was based on the ideals and tradition of American values. Because they are Americans, English was a medium of instruction. The primary curriculum prescribed in 1904 by the Americans for the Filipinos consisted of three grades in two aspects. The body training, which is singing, drawing, physical education, and the mental training, which is reading, writing, phonetics, spelling, nature study, and arithmetic. Curric uh, Intermediate curriculum includes arithmetic, geography, science and English science, plant life, physiology, and sanitation. Collegiate level includes a normal school which aims to replace soldier and the Thomasites. Also, group teaching method was adapted and there was a prohibition of compulsory religious instruction in public schools. There is a vocational education and household activities like sewing, cooking, and farming. Also, there was an existence of adult education to give formal education, spread of democracy, and formation of good citizens including rights and responsibilities. The Filipino soldiers stopped teaching when a group of teachers from the United States came to the Philippines in June 1901. In August 1901, 600 teachers called Thomasites came to the Philippines named after S. S. Thomas. Some of the well-known schools established are Philippine Normal Schools in 1901, National University also in 1901, University of the Philippines in 1908, University of Manila in 1914, Philippines Women's University in 1919, Eastern University in 1933, Philippine Nautical Schools, Philippine School of Arts and Trade, Central Luzon Agriculture School. Some of the famous scholars are Judge Jose Abad Santos, Francisco Benitez, Honorarius Season, Francisco Delgado. The subjects taught are primary education, GMRC, civics, hygiene and sanitation, geography, intermediate curriculum, grammar and composition, and reading, spelling, science course, physiology, hygiene and sanitation, intensive teaching of geography. In the American period, aims are to teach democracy and separation of church and state. The method used are socialized recitation, participation, and debate. The educational types are formal education, first public school, English language, and democracy. The role of teachers are teach concepts and develop the rational mind, for example, debate. How about the Commonwealth period on 1935 to 1945? In the Commonwealth period, the Commonwealth era is the 10-year traditional period in Philippine history from 1935 to 1945 in the preparation for the independence from the United States as provided under the Philippine Independence Act known as Tiding-McDuffie Law. This era was interrupted when the Japanese occupied the Philippines in January 2, 1942. The Commonwealth government led by Manuel L. Quezon and Sergio L. Osmeña went into exile in the United States. Japanese forces installed a puppet government led by Jose P. Laurel. This is known as the Second Philippine Republic. And on October 20, 1944, the Allied force led by General Douglas MacArthur landed on the island of Leyte to liberate the Philippines from Japan and finally surrender on September 2, 1945. The Commonwealth period curriculum. The curriculum for the training of elementary school teachers was expanded by the Bureau of Education by elevating it from secondary school to the collegiate level, organizing 8 regional normal schools. Some of the educational practice are Filipino language was used as a medium of instruction. Vocational schools were made more similar in curriculum to academic schools. And celebration of National Language Week every August. The inculcated values like moral character, personal discipline, civic conscience, and vocational efficiency and citizenship training. In the 1935 Constitution, it is stating Article 14, Section 5, that all schools shall aim to develop moral characters, personal discipline, civil conscience, vocational efficiency, and teach duties of citizenship. Their educational aims are develop moral character, civic conscience, vocational efficiency, and preparation for incoming independence. The medium of instruction are Filipino language. The method of education are memorization, CET, and recitation. The role of teachers are to promote nationalism, values, moral character, and personal discipline. In the Japanese occupation, they destroy the public school system by manipulating it for their advantage. The school building, books, and other educational materials were destroyed. There was a breakdown of social values, yet there were some Filipinos who are willing to earn education. In the Japanese occupation curriculum, they introduced many changes in the curriculum by including Nihongo and abolishing English as a medium of instruction and a subject. All textbooks were censored and revised, and the Japanese devised curriculum caused a blackout in the Philippines education and impeded the education progress. The school calendar became longer and there is no summer vacation for students. The class size increased to 60. They are removed anti-Asian opinions, banned singing of American songs, symbol poems and pictures, and Nihongo as a means of introducing and cultivating love for Japanese culture. On June 1942, Military Order Number 2 mandated the teaching of Tagalog, Philippine history and character education to Filipino students with emphasis on love for work and dignity of labor. They are also mandated the reopening of elementary schools, vocational and normal schools. The institution offered courses in agriculture, medicine, fisheries, and engineering. Also in the Japanese occupation, Japanese language is popularized to terminate the use of English. Filipino children went to school to learn Japanese songs and games, and there was a strict censorship of textbooks and other learning materials. In the Japanese occupation, they introduced the six basic principles of Japanese education. Number one is to realize of new order and promote friendly relationship between Japan and the Philippines. The second one is foster a new Filipino culture base. The third is diffusion of the Japanese language in the Philippines. Fourth, promotion of vocational course. And the last one is inspire people with the spirit to love neighbor. Also in the Japanese occupation, the educational aims are eradicate the old idea of reliance on Western nation, love of labor, and military training. The method of education are stress dignity of manual labor and emphasis vocational education. The educational types are Nihongo language, vocational training, and health education on agriculture. The medium of instruction is the Nihongo language. The Third Republic. In the Third Republic, transition of government ended in 1945. The same year, World War II ended. In July 4, 1946, the Third Philippine Republic inaugurated in Luneta. Their guests were General Douglas MacArthur, the Supreme Commander of the Allied Power in Japan, former Governor General F.B. Harrison, the most beloved American Governor General in the Philippines. The solemn moment of independence ceremony with the raising of flag of Philippine flag by President Rojas and lowering of American flag by Ambassador McNutt. In the Third Republic, they enacted a law of Philippine Rehabilitation Act. States in exchange, the Philippines grant parity rights to Americans, equal right with Filipino citizens to develop and exploit natural resources of the Philippines and to operate utilities in the country. In the Third Republic, Elpidio Quirino in 1948 to 1953 on his first State of the Nation address on January 24, 1949 said that our educational policy must be reviewed and revised for closer coordination with the objectives of our proposed development program without sacrificing the traditional aim of providing a liberal culture basic to the good life. In 1947, by the virtue of Executive Order Number 94, the Department of Instruction was changed to Department of Education. During this period, the repetition and supervision of public and private schools belonged to the Bureau of Public and Private Schools. The Third Republic highlights are there was a massive rebuilding not only of infrastructure but more so of the values of the Filipinos that was worked during the war. There was a massive rehabilitation of the school buildings and the restoration through the school system of the values that were practiced during the pre-war society. According to Diosdado Macapagal on his second State of the Nation address on January 28, 1963, he expressed that basic to the effort toward economic expansion and the growth of social benefits to the common man is the proper education of its citizenry. It is on the objective that the Department of Education formulated policies and implemented measures to improve the quality instruction and to strengthen the curricula in all levels of instruction. Some of the education program during this time are the concept of academic freedom, only universities established by the state, the religious instruction in the public schools, and the creation of scholarship in the arts, science, letters was for especially gifted citizens. And for those who possess a certain level of capability for academic studies and are unable to afford the cost of college education. The third public educational practice are the moral character, the quality of a person that guide his thinking, behavior, and relationship with other social concern and involvement. Vocational efficiency, productivity, complete and adequate system of public education. And also change with the changing time and human beings. In the go. In the new society on 1965 to 1986, in the Presidential Decree 6A, the Educational Development Decree of 1972, the department should provide for a broad and general education, attain his potential as human being, and to enhance the range and quality of individual, acquire the essential educational foundation, and to train the nation's manpower in the middle level skills, develop the high level profession for leadership of nation, and respond effectively to changing needs. In the 1972 Constitution, on Section 8, Paragraph 1, all educational institutions shall be under the supervision of and subject to regulation by the state. The state shall be established and maintain a complete, adequate, and integrated system of education relevant to the goals of national development. Paragraph 2. All institutions of higher learning shall enjoy academic freedom. And paragraph 3. The study of the Constitution shall be part of the curricula in all schools. Paragraph 4. All educational institutions shall aim to inculcate love of country, teach the duties of citizenship, and develop moral character, personal discipline, and scientific, technological, and vocational efficiency. Paragraph 5. The state shall maintain a system of free public elementary education and areas where finance permit. Establish and maintain a system of free public education at least up to the secondary level. In the paragraph 6, the state shall provide citizenship and vocational training to adult citizens and out of school and create and maintain scholarship for poor and deserving students. Educational highlights are The Department of Education became the Department of Education and Culture in 1972. The Ministry of Education and Culture in 1978 with Educational Act of 1982, the Ministry of Education, Culture, and Sports. Bilingual education was established in 1974 requiring Filipino and English. Science and math subjects as well as English language and literature classes were taught in English while the rest were taught in Filipino. Bilingual policy was reiterated in 1987 Constitution of the Philippines. The new society educational aims are love of country, develop moral character, self-discipline and science and technology and vocational efficiency. Educational types is national development. And here the pleats like peace and order, economic development, em- employment and manpower development, and land reform, government reorganization, and social services. In the post-Easter Republic, brave, the brave story, the brave history, on November 1985, Marcos called for a snap election or kilusang bagong lipunan. On December 1985, Cory Aquino declared candidacy for United Nationalist Democratic Organization. On February 7, 1986, there was a snap election at Batasang Pambansa. Some of the highlights are Corazon Aquino's administration in 1986 to 1992, the Freedom Constitution, in 1987 Constitution Commission, on February 2, 1987, the ratification. In 1987 Constitution Section 1, Quality Education at all levels. Section 2, Free Complete Education Scholarship, Grant Student Loan, Indigenous O is OSY, Non-Formal Adult Citizenship or PWD. Section 3, Constitution as a Subject, Patriotism and Nationalism. Section 4, the educational institution as supervised by the state. The Section 5, Regional and Sectoral Needs, which is academic freedom, courses, and teacher training. Corazon Aquino administration on 1986 to 1992, Executive Order number 117, the Ministry of Education, Culture and Sport to the Department of Education, Culture and Sport, DEX. The Republic Act 6655 on May 26, 1988 for a Free Public Secondary Education Act of 1988. Republic Act number 7323 on February 3, 1992 for 15 to 25 years old employed student during Christmas break and summer vacation. In Fidel B. Ramos administration on 1992 to 1998, ensuring full and unimpeded access by all to both primary and secondary schools is the most effective way of empowering ordinary people. Education reform must also develop a curriculum that is strong in science, mathematics, and language. It must include the enhancement of the condition of teachers, both livelihood and work. Vocation, and offers vocational education and technical trainings. In 1994, the creation of the Commission on Higher did not guarantee a marked improvement in the delivery of quality education in tertiary level. Its mandated is to regulate higher education institutions including state university and college except institutions which are granted autonomous status. In Joseph Estrada administration on 1998 to 2001, Executive Order Number 46 establishing the Presidential Commission on Educational Reform, PCER. Section 1, Presidential Commission on Educational Reform under the office of the President, which shall be a multi-sectoral body comprised of representatives from government line agencies, the University of the Philippines, the Open University, University of the Philippines, public and private schools at all levels, teachers, the agriculture and industry sectors, the information technology sectors, state college and university and concerned sectors. And Section 2, Structures. The commission will be chaired by a person with outstanding record in education and of proven integrity appointed by the President for the duration of the life of commission. Members of the commission will include the Secretary of Education, Culture and Sport, the Chairman of the Commission on Higher Education, the Director General of the Technical Education Skills and Development Authority, the Director General of National Economic and Development Authority, the ILG, and the OST, the University of the Philippines, DOF, State College and Universities, Superintendent, Public and Private School Teachers. Also in Joseph Estrada administration, the Educational Committee Chairman of the upper and lower houses will be invited to attend meeting ex officio either personality or through representatives. There will be a secretariat headed by a full-time executive director for the purpose housed within DICS and staffed by individuals seconded by DICS, TRID, and TISDA. The post-EDSA Republic. The post-EDSA public coverage, the Commission shall be given 1 year to define a comprehensive and a budget feasible program of reform in the following areas. Number 1, curricula, teaching methods, instructional media, educational technologies, textbooks, language policy, and school calendar in use at the elementary and secondary levels using international benchmarks. Second, the modernization of science laboratories, improvement of science and mathematics, and the feasibility of establishing regional centers of excellence in science education. The upgrading of computer classroom, computing facilities, and internet access in all schools that meet eligibility standard for administering CHAS programs. The expansion and modernization and standardization of our vocational and technical institutions, especially polytechnic college and universities, and the distance learning and continuing education program for adult and out-of-school youth. In the Gloria Arroyo's administration on 2001 to 2010, to prepare the succeeding generation to be globally competitive, the President has directed DepEd to adopt measures that will reverse reported declines in English literacy among Filipinos. Upgrading of the teaching of mathematics and science in basic education. Revised BIC or Basic Education Curriculum has been implemented since June 2002 and now focus on the 5 learning areas, which is English, Science, Math, Filipino, and Makabayan, form the previous 8 per grade or year label. Science teaching has been given enough time allotment from 300 to 400 minutes each week to promote the culture and science among students. The number of mathematics laboratory has been likewise increased. About 600 teachers from both private and public schools have been trained on the new curriculum. For implementation of basic education basic education curriculum or BIC is during this time. In the Benigno Aquino the third administration on 2010 to 2016, on June 24, 2010, Armen Luestro is the Secretary of Education, and on June 4, 2011 was the implementation of K-12. What is the K-12 curriculum? The K-12 curriculum is learner-centered, inclusive and developmentally appropriate, and relevant, responsible, and research-based, contextualized, and global use of pedagogical approaches that are constructivist, inquiry-based, reflective, and collaborative, and integrative. The K-12 curriculum also adhere the principle of mother tongue-based multilingual education. It is the use of spiral progression approach to ensure mastery of knowledge and skill in every level, and flexible enough to enable and allow school to localize, indigenize, and enhance the STEM based on their respective educational and social context. The RE 10533, known as Enhanced Basic Education Act of 2013, was signed into law by President Aquino on May 15, 2013. With the passage of this law, the K-12 basic education program was formalized. RE 10157, or the Kindergarten Education Act, covers of the K-12 basic education, 6 years of primary education, and 4 years of junior high school, and 2 years of senior high school. There is an urgent need to enhance the quality of basic education in our country, as seen in the educational outcome of the Filipino student. What are the K-12 curriculum? The K-12 curriculum's silent features: strengthening early childhood education or universal kindergarten, the making curriculum relevant to learning or contextualization and enhancement, the building proficiency through language, mother tongue-based or multilingual education, the ensuring integrated and seamless learning, spiral progression, and gearing up for the future senior high school. Pro of K to 12 are par with international 12 years basic education, pursue protective employment, entrepreneurship, and higher education studies. Graduates are expected to be equipped with the 21st century skills. Cons of K to 12 set a burden for average Filipino family. Basis of implementation, mastery of basic competencies is sufficient due to congested curriculum. And the Philippines is the only remaining country in Asia with a 10 years basic education program. The core curriculum has 7 learning areas, which is number 1, language, number 2, literature, third, communication, fourth, mathematics, 5, philosophy, 6, natural sciences, and social sciences. In the senior high school, there are 3 tracks. First, academic, technical, vocational, livelihood, and sport and arts. Academic is the business, accountancy, management, technical, vocational education and training, national certificate. After finishing on grade 12, a student may obtain a national certificate level 2 or NC 2, provided he or she passed the competency-based assessment of the technical education and skills development. Academic, business, accountancy, management, humanities, education, social sciences, and third, science and technology, engineering, mathematics, or STEAM. Modeling best practices for senior high school year 2012 to 2013, there are about 33 public high schools and public technical vocational high schools and higher educational institutions that have implemented grade 11. On school year 2016 to 2017, there was a full implementation of K to 12. For grade 1 to 10, students will experience an enhanced context-based and spiral progression learning curriculum with the following subject: Mother tongue, Filipino, English, Mathematics, Science, Aralin Panlipunan, Edukasyon sa Pagpapakatao or ESP, Music and Arts, Physical Education, Health, Edukasyon Pantahanan at Pangkabuhayan or Technology and Livelihood Education, TLE. Some facts on K to 12 are: in school year 2011 to 2012, universal kindergarten implementation begins. In school year 2012 to 2013, enhanced curriculum for grade 1 to grade 7 implemented. In 2013, K to 12 enacted into law. And on 2014, curriculum for grade 11 to grade 12 finished. Before I end my discussion, bear in mind that every student and teacher deserve to be treated with respect. Every student should have an opportunity to reach his or her individual potential. And the challenge is to identify what should be the same in schools and what should be different. And thank you and wassalam.